We will be in Revelations chapter 14 today, starting in verse 6. As we keep going through Revelations, it's probably been one of the studies that's showed me how ill prepared I am in some ways. And I apologize for that to an extent, I guess. And just hope you all know that in teaching this, it's helping me to grow as much as I hope it is helping you. Anyway, so Revelations chapter 14, starting in verse 6. We'll go from 6 to verse 13 today. And a brief overview of kind of where we're at in Revelations. Dalen was in chapter 7 last week, and between chapter 7 and chapter 14, a lot has happened. The 7 seals have been opened. The 7 trumpets have been blown. The Antichrist is on the scene, and the false prophet is on the scene. So the world's coming apart is probably the easiest way to sum all of that up. And all these things are happening. And then we'll pick up in verse 6 of Revelations chapter 14. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Verse 9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark in his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. All right, so we go back to verse 6, and we look at the first angel that's come. And we see that the first angel that's come is preaching the everlasting gospel. And as I was reading this and studying this, it talked about, there was some talk about how it's a different gospel that's preached than what's preached now. And though I think there might be something to be said about that, I still think that the importance to see what is going on here. I was going to save this to the end, but I think the importance, the biggest thing that I gleaned out of all of this chapter is that with the world coming apart in this time, the church has been raptured, and the world's coming apart, and the people that have come to know God through this tribulation, it's not a good time. It's not a pleasant time. It's full of all the worst things you could think of. And you can go back through Revelations and read for yourself some of the things that have happened and that are going to happen. And the biggest thing that I kept in mind, or that come to me in reading this, is that even as the world was coming apart, God was always making a way. He doesn't want any of us or any man or woman now or in this time to spend our eternity in hell. He's made a way. And we look at the first angel that comes in verse 6, preaching the everlasting gospel, and that's there. He's making a way, telling the people, and the And in verse 7, you see what the everlasting gospel is, what he's preaching, what he's saying. It's a saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. It's saying that his hour of judgment is here. It's not pending, it's here. And it points out that God is the creator of all. And at the beginning, as we read, it said fear God. Find myself place, and it said fear God. And it's funny that's where this starts out. That's what I was talking about yesterday in the men's prayer breakfast. And it's something to keep in mind. Fear of the Lord in our time and in this time, it doesn't lose its importance now or then. To understand that the God that we worship is the God that created all, and that's what this angel is preaching. That's the gospel this angel is preaching, is that we need to fear God who created the heavens and the earth and the fountains of waters, which is saying that God created everything. And as we move on into verse 8, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen the great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So the second angel is talking about the fall of Babylon. And if you wish to read more about the descriptions of Babylon, you can go to chapters 17 and 18, and they will lay out more descriptions of Babylon in and of itself. But I'm a pretty simple-minded guy in the way that I think about things. And I think the most important thing to think about with Babylon is Babylon, at one point in time, was an ancient city that they took over Judah and brought them into, I think, 70 years. Does that sound right? That Judah went into exile in Babylon, something like that. But anyway, that city now is outside of Baghdad, Iraq. I think is where the ruins of that ancient city is. So this is clearly not talking about that specific ancient city, and the focus to me is more on what Babylon represents, which is the representation of sin in the world and of fornication and misconduct. It's the physical manifestation of a place that harbors all of the sin of mankind and is leading people and its rulers astray in this time. And they followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Speaking of the perverseness of this place, and in Babylon throughout the Bible is a picture of sin and worldliness. And we pick up in verse 9, and from 9 to 13 is probably where God spoke to me the most. I almost hate to say it that way, but not to disregard the beginning verses, but in verse 9 we take a look at the third angel. And this is oddly enough something that's been on my mind a lot. But anyway, in verse 9 it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. So the first angel was preaching the everlasting gospel, saying that the hour of judgment has come. It's here. And then this angel is talking about, thus far, he's talking about if you've taken the mark of the beast in your forehead or on your hand, that you are going to drink of the wine of the wrath of God. So you're going to have to endure the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. And I think to that part is where most of us struggle the most with our Christianity today. And what you'll see in this time is that we are eternal. one way or the other. You can accept Christ and you can spend eternity in heaven, or apart from Christ, you're going to spend eternity in hell. And we seem to shy away from that because it's not a pleasant thought. But here in verse 11, there's no more plainer way to put it, and that the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth that mark, the mark of his name. Here and so when we see and when we're sharing the gospel today, if we aren't diligent about speaking of repentance or the what's the word I'm hunting for, the punishment of sin, the severity of sin, and the fact that there is no in between. You're either for Jesus, you're either with Jesus, or you're the devil's. That's as plain and simple as it is today as it will be in this time. And we seem to shy away from that and forget about that, which I think leads us to going back to the fear of the Lord, or fear of God. That fear of who we're worshiping, I think, is often lost on us today. And in this time, I think the biggest, as much as my mind can wrap my mind around going through the times of tribulation and things like that, which I don't think we actually really can. We can just try to understand as best we can. When you think of that, it's going to be more apparent at that time with how bad things are. You are going to be, if you're a believer in that time, there's not going to be any chance of dodging persecution. You are going to be persecuted in that time, and more than likely killed for your faith. So realize, like, you're not going to just do that in this time for a God who didn't create all. But I feel like that's lost on ourselves now, that we've grown so accustomed to talking about Jesus and talking about God, and we're so laxed in our worldview as Americans, that we're really not persecuted, we're really not troubled that much, that our country and and the people around us are walking off into hell with no knowledge and fear of the God that we serve, because we've done, as the church, a poor job of putting it forth that there is a cost for your sin, and apart from Jesus, there's only one other place you're going to be, and that's hell. That's an unpopular opinion in today's time, but it's the truth. It's the truth now, same as it is then. And then as we pick up in verse 12, this spoke to me about today's Christian as well. As here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Keeping in mind that at this time, if you're a believer, you're going to be martyred for your faith, and you're more than likely going to be killed. The thought of the fact that when you come to your end, that you're going to be in heaven, and that your labors are over and you're going to find rest. I think the church today also struggles with the thought of death. For some reason, even as believers, and I think it goes back to fear of the Lord and lack of faith, honestly. As believers, we have come to the point, we haven't come to the point, we've just kind of stayed there, where death is still this big mystery to us, and we fear it. We fear it greatly. And I've not, especially in the past handful of years, I've come to the point where I don't necessarily understand that, because as I've said from here before, the two greatest things for the Christian would be the rapture or death. Our time here on earth is temporary, and our purpose here is to worship God and to serve God, and to fulfill His commandments. Specifically and importantly, the great commandment of going out and telling others about Jesus. As I was going through this and looking at the end of that verse that's speaking of of death of the believer, and that there's that ye saith the Spirit that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. It led me looking for different scriptures and things to apply to our lives today to the same regard, because I kept thinking to myself of how much believers today fear death. And I went to Philippians chapter 1, verses 20 through 26, and I'll read it. According to my earnest expectation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness, as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I live in the flesh, this is the fruit of my labor. Yet when I shall choose, I want not, for I am in a strait betwixt two, having a desire to depart and to be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to abide in the flesh is more needful for you. So what he's saying here is he's saying he's got a purpose here. He would like to go and be with Jesus, and I understand that more now than ever. I would love to go and be with Jesus. I look forward to the day that I get to go and be with Jesus. I very much so look forward to that day, but I have a purpose here on this earth that Jesus has called me to, and to depart from that means that my work is through. So I can only leave here when my work is through. And I believe that that's a similar look as to what we're looking at in the end times in Revelations 14, that once these people come to their belief in God and they come to their belief in Jesus and they are martyred for their faith and they get to go to heaven and rest, they don't have to endure any of the rest of that tribulation time. But I feel like it's the same thing for us, that we can look at. I long to be with Jesus, but while I'm here, my life has a purpose, and He has a plan and a work for me to do. We're called to serve Him. We're called by the Great Commission to go out into all the world and tell people about Jesus. All of us are called to that, to preach the gospel. And when we live knowing that we have a purpose here and that we have a job and a work here to do, so our time here has purpose, has meaning, and has a point. But at the end of it all, we have a much better place to go to than where we're living now. Then we can have the confidence, maybe confidence is a poor choice, but we can have the strength and courage to endure all that we have to endure from the time we've gained our salvation until Jesus decides to call us home. And it's the same for these folks in Revelation 14. They can have hope in the fact that when their time on earth is through, they are going to be at rest and they're going to be in heaven. And it's the same for us. While we're here, we have a work to do, but we're never promised an easy job of doing it. We're never promised that it's going to be easy without persecution and that we're going to be happy all the time. Our society like to lie to us and tell us that we need to pursue happiness above all else. Well, happiness is fleeting and can't be held on to for very long, but the joy of the Lord can last forever. If we work within the purpose and the purpose and the job for which Jesus has given us and called us to, we are going to be living for the reason we are created, and knowing that even as we endure to something better, that when our time on this earth is through, we will move on to something better and be in a better place. Going through Revelations has been challenging, and I really enjoyed Dalen's message going through chapter 7 and the way he laid things out. He did a really good job. I feel like this was pretty challenging for me this week, and I don't exactly know why, other than the fact that I wish I had more confidence in my knowledge. I've read through Revelation several times, but I feel weak in my thoughts of timelines and understandings. But I feel in chapter 14, the biggest things to keep in mind is that even in the end times, God doesn't want anybody to go into eternal torment. He's made a way. And you see that with the first angel. He's made a way. And anybody that believes, even going through tribulation, we serve a loving God that wishes for nobody to go into eternal torment, and that He's made a way, and that we can pull the same kind of confidence out of Revelations 14 that we can throughout the rest of the Bible for our lives, knowing that if we endure our purpose and our time on this earth now, we are enduring to go to a better place in the future. And that's what I had, probably the shortest Sunday school that I've done thus far. But with that, we'd pray. And if anybody has anything to add about Revelations, by all means do so. Father, I thank you for this chance to get into your word. I thank you for growing me in an area where I'm weak. And I just thank you for blessing me in the way that you have. And I pray that your word would influence hearts here this morning. And I just pray that you'd be with us as we move forward, going into the preaching hour, that you'd be with the pastor, and that you would stir our hearts with the Holy Spirit, Lord, that you would bring us nearer to you and reveal yourself to us all the more. I pray these things in Jesus' name.